Absolutely. We've seen throughout Russia's history, both with Ukraine as well as its geopolitical adversaries, that they've consistently used cyber as a tool, not only for getting their discussions going in terms of negotiations, but also in potentially destructive actions. We even saw them target a petrochemical facility in Saudi Arabia a couple years ago where they tried to kill people at that site. So it's absolutely a tool that they consistently use.
What, in your view, is something that we can expect? Because the conversation here in Munich that I was having with various officials and former officials and those who had been working in previous administrations, either for the German government or the U.S. government, or now in the private sector, but basically covering the same thing, which is the cyber threat. They were essentially saying, there's no doubt about the fact that the Kremlin has got to be planning this already and that they're going to target financial institutions. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, when the first invasion of Ukraine took place in 2014, we saw that the Russian government ended up carrying out cyber attacks against U.S. financial institutions. J.P. Morgan, as well as a couple other large banks, were rolled up in that, where Russian-based groups ended up stealing sensitive information, lots of financial information, accounts, so forth. So we've seen going after those financial institutions before. We've also seen Russian-based groups go after the energy sector. In 2015, a Russian-based group ended up targeting Ukraine's electric system, looking at those operation technology or those different types of industrial systems in their electric system, causing the first ever cyber attack to take down an electric power system. They did that again in 2016. And we've been tracking Russian-based groups that have been doing some reconnaissance or think of high-level targeting of not only institutions and energy communities inside of Ukraine, but also doing scanning or reconnaissance against U.S. utilities. So it's absolutely something everyone's concerned about. The Biden administration even ended up publishing documents to the private sector of the United States saying, hey, be ready. If a conflict kicks off, we do expect for there to be cyber attacks against financial and electric systems, potentially even liquid natural gas, given all the discussions around the gas pipelines.
Yeah, Robert, it's just fascinating how Russia uses the information space in the theatre of war. But one thing that you have written about quite extensively in the past is Russia's ability to attack industrial infrastructure. You say it's now more significant than ever before. Just elaborate on that for us with regards to the methodology when it comes to these attacks and also where the vulnerabilities might actually lie in the United States and in the West now. Would you expect energy infrastructure to be targeted in particular in the future, or other forms of essential public services or utilities perhaps? Is that where the Russian focus is, or is it elsewhere?
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly like you said. These industrial systems are the ones that tend to be the big focus. A lot of the security work done for decades has centered around what we call the information technology networks of these companies. Think their website, your computers, your email servers, and so forth. But what makes companies critical infrastructure is the goods and services they provide. That comes out of those industrial, or what we would call operations technology, or OT infrastructure. That's the stuff that deals with physics. It's the things that talk about electric generation and transmission, wastewater treatment facilities, and so forth. And over the last decade, we've seen an increase in adversaries targeting those industrial systems as they become more connected as the world digitally transforms. Russian-based groups have been called out by the US government and UK government consistently in going after those industrial systems. And I think everyone's just generally concerned that as their knowledge increases about how to target those systems, at the same time that those systems are becoming connected, that obviously can lead to some pretty disastrous effects. We've seen the impacts of taking down energy infrastructure. This past year, there was an attack on the Colonial Pipeline based off of criminals trying to ransom the pipeline, caused fuel shortages all the way to across the East Coast, caused panic buying and so forth. So even though Colonial Pipeline did a great job in its response, we're all concerned about these attacks. And what we can say with confidence is consistently these adversaries gets in months, if not years ahead of needing to be able to launch an attack, stay quiet and sort of stealthy in the environments, and then use a lot of the native functionality of that system against itself. If you think about that for a second, like a electric system operator is able to open up a circuit breaker or close a circuit breaker to energize a town, same style an adversary can use the capabilities to do that.